Greetings everybody. This is the NABSS Week 2014. This session we're dealing with dementia in the UK, in the African Caribbean community. And we've invited an organisation called Culture Dementia UK. And they're going to come and talk about the organisation and what is happening with dementia and African people in the UK, because it's on the increase in all cultures. But what is our response? What is the help that's out there for us as African people in the UK? What are we going to do about it? And as our population grows, what is our response? How are we going to help our own people? Because we can't keep relying on other people to be looking after ourselves. So what is our response? And what are the organisations that are out there? So can I welcome Enid Jackson to come forward and talk to us about Culture Dementia UK. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Enid Jackson, and I'm the founder of Culture Dementia UK. The organisation started in 1998, and we were known then as Friends of African Caribbean Carers and Sufferers of Dementia. The reason for this was because a lot of black people were suffering behind a closed door. And I don't know what part of the West Indies or Africa you originated from, or your parents originated from. But I'm from Jamaica, and I know in Jamaica, people with dementia is deemed to have done something bad in the past, or it's a curse, or they're confessing. And this stigma is attached to dementia. Obviously, we brought our customs here, and we still think about it as a curse. And the reason that what happened then, we were hiding behind closed doors. We were not seeking the help that is out there. And my mother had Alzheimer's, and I started nursing when I was 18. And I rose up in the ranks of the nursing profession, and I didn't know anything about dementia. And I was afraid because of that stigma. And you know, when she died, I was angry. I was angry with myself, I was angry with everybody. And thus, I used to go to bed at night and thinking, you know, what is all this? And then something came to me, what are you going to do about it? And I got some of my friends, nursing friends, together and realized that they were in the same position as I was. At thus, Friends of African Caribbean Carers and Dementia was formed. We went about from one part of England to the other, because by then I was not working, and I had my bus pass. I was a pensioner, so I could go up and down on my pensioner's card. So we went up and down the place, and we talked about dementia, and you know, people would come to us, and we would go out there and tell them about churches. We wrote to nearly everybody, what that was, anybody in England. We wrote to the doctors, and you know, I think one doctor answered, and all the people up there in the black community, we didn't get any reply. But the white people that we wrote to, in about 24 hours, there was a reply. Whether they could do it or they couldn't do it, whether they could be a patron or they couldn't be a patron. Anyway, as time went by, we had little grants. We could buy computers and things like that, and we had small grants. And then we found, we had a few years ago, we had to change the name to Culture Dementia, because we realized that it wasn't just a black community that had dementia. We had the white, the black, all nation, all class that had dementia. Thus we changed the name to Culture Dementia UK. So much of that. What is dementia? Dementia is faulty working of the brain due to a variety of conditions. Alzheimer's disease is the greatest cause. Coming next to that is vascular dementia. And most of the black community people are troubled with vascular dementia rather than Alzheimer's disease. So many people will come to me and say, my mother has dementia, you know, she's got Alzheimer's. Nothing. She hasn't got Alzheimer's in most cases. They've got vascular disease, vascular dementia. And what is the difference between vascular dementia and Alzheimer's disease? Alzheimer's disease is caused by little things wrapping around the brain cells and killing it. Vascular dementia is caused from blockage of the brain or diminished blood flow to the brain. Excuse me, I'm just talking in layman's language. And normally this blockage of blood flow is normally caused by maybe high blood pressure, and you have a stroke. It could be rapid if you have a large stroke, or you could have mini strokes, little strokes. Some people don't even realize that they've got this stroke. But that little tiny stroke is damaging your blood cells in the brain, little by little. And every time you have one of those mini strokes, it eats a little bit more, damages a bit more of your brain cells. And so it goes on. The more strokes you have, mini strokes, the more of your brain cell is being damaged. So that's one of the causes of vascular dementia. It can also be caused if you're diabetic and it's not controlled properly. So the blood flow to your brain and the oxygen to your brain is diminished. So you can control vascular dementia in a way if you take your medication for your diabetes, for your high blood pressure, if it's controlled, and you take exercises to control your blood pressure, you eat well to control your diet. So, as I said, dementia is not a curse. It's not a stigma. Dementia is nothing to do with being good or bad. Dementia does not discriminate. Dementia affects people of all races, of all color, whether you're good or you're bad. Dementia affects you, whether you're educated or uneducated. You can have dementia because it does not discriminate. Age does not necessarily mean that you're going to have dementia. Because I can tell you this, I don't think I'm, not yet, have dementia, and I'm not going to tell you how old I am.
Yes.
But you could be 90 odd, you could be whatever, and your memory is that. And you could be 40 and you have dementia. So age does not discriminate. It does not discriminate in age. And because you're old, it doesn't mean that you're going to get dementia. So, we talk about the causes. What about the symptoms? The symptoms are varied depending on the kind of dementia you've got, the cause of your dementia. And most people, the first thing is forgetfulness. You might put your money down, or your grandmother, mother, or whatever it is, might put her £5 down, and she puts it underneath her pillow or in her Bible, and she swears she can't find it, and she says someone has stolen it. But she has forgotten where she's put it. So, because she's forgotten, it's real. She doesn't mean to tell a lie on you. She has forgotten. But if you look, You'll find it. And you see, a lot of people say, oh, that woman is wicked because she says, I've stolen her money. She accuses me of stealing her money. She's not wicked. She has forgotten. Another sign is wandering. They might wander because they go out and they have forgotten their way back. So, because they cannot find their way back, they are looking for the way back and they wander about. But they might find a house that they came to England. They might come to England in the 50s or 60s and they find their way back to that house. For some reason, because they've gone back to the past. And they'll find their way back. And most people that wandered, their relatives found them at a house where they lived when they came to England. You know, sometimes the police will pick them up because they'll go and knock on that door and somebody will phone the police and say, there's a man at my door. You know, but that man lived at that house some years ago. So coming back to this, that's why when a person suffers from dementia, it's important that you let the police know. And also that you have some identification on them. They won't like it, but you can sew something in their jacket pocket or somewhere where they're not going to notice. Or a watch or something where somebody can find it to say who they are. So you have wandering, they lose the things and they hide them. They become confused. And the reason why they become confused, they're living in a land that is strange. Because they've gone back to the past. Where they're living is it's not their land, they're in a strange land. They can't find things, so they become confused. So confusion is one of the signs and symptoms. They cannot recognize clean from dirty. So they'll get up and they'll put the same dirty clothes on. Or they'll put the dirty clothes over the clean clothes, vice versa. They'll put their clothes on inside out. Now, you can do something about that. You can put the clean clothes out at night when they're not looking, so that when they're ready to put it on, the dirty ones aren't there. But if you take away those dirty ones in their sight, they're going to get mad. Yes, and because to them it's not dirty, it's clean. So they cannot recognize clean from dirty. They does not recognize day from night. Sometimes day is their night, and night is their day. Especially people who used to work at night. You'll see them getting ready to go to work. So poor carer, whoever she or he is, don't let them sleep at night either, because they've got to be up at night looking after them and wondering what is happening. They become aggressive, very aggressive. And sometimes why they are so aggressive, they might tell you something and you say, no, there's nothing like that. And that's the worst thing you could ever do, because to them it's real. And you're telling them what they're seeing, that is real. You're saying they're seeing it, and then you're telling them it's not real, so they get mad and they get very aggressive. So you've got to know how to deal with those aggressions. You've got to say, oh yes, you know, some people say you mustn't say that. Then you've got to say, oh, but we'll deal with that later on. Don't say you're rubbish. It's nothing like that, because the more you say that, the more aggressive they'll get. So you've got to know how to deal with these behaviors. They cannot remember if they've eaten. So sometimes you're looking about your mother, your father, your auntie or your dad, and you gave them breakfast this morning, and you know, you see to it that they had their breakfast. And another daughter or son comes in, And they'll say, you know something, Mary hasn't given me anything to eat all day. She hasn't given me anything to eat. And Mary believes it because they're so convincing. Mary believes, and Mary says, oh, you know, Sonia is very wicked. She hasn't given Mom anything to eat all day. And she goes and she gets something else for Mom. And Mom eats it. Dennis might come in, for want of a better name, and she says, oh, Dennis, they haven't given me anything to eat. So Dennis run out to the chip shop or whatever and get something for Mom to eat, or Dad or whatever, and she'll eat it. But you know what's going to happen after that? Toilet. Because she's overeaten. And also, it causes rift against family. Because they are convincing. And family will say, you know, my sister doesn't look after Mom or Dad. She hasn't given her anything to eat all day, or he hasn't given her anything to eat all day. So that's going to cause some rift. In later stage, they might not know their children, they might not know who you are. And I think that's one of the most cruel conditions. When your mother asks you, who are you again? And it's your daughter or your son, and she doesn't know you, she doesn't recognize you, and that's cruel. Not to her, it's cruel to you, the child, that's thinking you're standing there before your mother, and she's asking you who you are. You know, so that's one of the most cruel thing, or I think, of the condition. Then they might lose control over their bowels, and they become incontinent, or they become incontinent of urine and bowels. So, you know, there are lots of things. Then some people with dementia might not be aggressive, they might become docile. You know, and they'll sit there like a zombie, really. They become docile. While some of them wander about and they follow you around and they shuffle. Others might just sit there quite docile. Now, what do you do if you think your loved one is suffering from dementia? Sometimes in the early stages, they know something is wrong. They know that they cannot remember something. I'm not talking about you run upstairs to get the whatever it is. And when you go upstairs, you can't remember. You say, oh, what did I get up here for? It happens to most people, especially if you're busy and you're stressed and things. You know, you go up there and you think, oh, God, what did I come up here for? It's not like that, you know. So, as I said, when they forget things, it's they know that they're forgetting things and things isn't right. And all it does take is a little persuasion. And say, Mom, let's go to the doctor. But you can't say, you must go to the doctor, because you won't get them there. You know, that's rude. That's getting them annoyed. You've got to coax them and say, you know, I think maybe we need to take a walk to the doctor because your ears might not be well, or, you know, sometimes it's just a little persuasion that they want to go to the doctor. Because sometimes it's not dementia, or the dementia might be caused by a tumor, urinary infection, or some other diseases, but not actual dementia. And until that diagnosis is made, you cannot really say that person has got dementia in the true form of dementia, Alzheimer's disease, or vascular dementia, or Pick's disease, or Lewy body diseases. You have got to go and get the diagnosis. And the sooner you get them to go to the doctor, and get the diagnosis, the better. Because whatever it is, you can get information, you can get treatment. If you have Alzheimer's disease, it won't get better. And if you've got vascular dementia, you won't get better. But it can be the vascular dementia can be controlled. So, and you can know what to do. There are certain medication on the market now for Alzheimer's disease. But the sooner you start, the better it is. So, if you think your loved one is suffering from dementia, the first thing to do is to get them to see a doctor. Now, what else? Caring for someone with dementia. Caring for someone with dementia is very, what must I say, not sad, but stressful. You can become angry because the person you're looking after has got dementia. And why should they get it anyway? You know, so you become angry. And anger is more pronounced if that person you're looking after, whether it be your husband or wife, didn't treat you nice in the marriage. They weren't kind to you. And you think, now they weren't kind to me. Now I've got to look after them. So anger is more pronounced. You become isolated because your friends don't visit you anymore. They might visit you once and they feel ashamed because of what your loved one is saying, because some of them swear. People who didn't swear, who wouldn't even say dog, they swear like a trooper. And they might come in and they find that your loved one is swearing, so they don't come back. And you become very isolated. So you become shameful, you become isolated. You stop looking after yourself, you don't eat, or you don't eat properly. You become stressed. You have backache. You become depressed. Because depression is one of all the things that affect carers. Yeah. So what I would advise is that you have somebody with dementia. It's important that you eat properly, that you drink.